actually, after, it's yours for the taking.
I'm kind of curious
I'm
about
going to
that.
down some more water.
And if you've already had some, feel free to have some more.
So,
There seems to be a lot of it, especially as, once again, I have erred on the side of caution and gotten more than enough.
that's peach.
Yeah, I told them I was sad. I turned off the camera before they started asking questions, so now I lost all of that.
Aw.
Missed some time.
Drinking your water out of your Pontarlier there. Nice. Absinthe glass.
Yeah.
Nice.
The red.
Lovely.
That's that. They actually, you can do a beer tour or you can do a distillery tour.
You can do the distillery tour now.
So did I.
Before she left something.
Well, that is, you might appreciate
Somebody
it.
did.
Thank you
A
very
friend of
much.
mine went on a whiskey tasting tour in Ireland, and they just about threw one of the people off the bus. Because what happened, he goes up and says, "Now, is this like a wine tasting where you try a little and you spit it out?"
How you doing?
And they're just going, "Spit it out! Get off the bus!
Get off the bus.
He does a muckamuck.
Spend more money.
His favorite thing is to run a muckamuck.
My wife's trying to get me
I need
an Irish whiskey for Valentine's Day called Writer's Tears. I said it must be pretty bitter.
Thank you.
All the candy recipes put on there, so. And videos from the talks.
This would be a way to take extremely cheap wine and make it much, much tastier.
That is exactly what I have done.
Because I know what you have put in there, and it is considerably better now.
Actually, the prime ingredient, the wine, are jugs from Kroger's.
Yes.
You have a Kroger's where you can get that unlimited stuff.
Yes. But the other things I put it on,
Yeah, it's, you do nice things to.
but the other ingredients in there, aside from the wine, I used a decent rum,
Yeah.
and I used fresh fruit. Although frozen fruit works well, frozen fruit has the added benefit of not only adding the fruit flavors to your sangria, but also as icing it. And then as it melts, it doesn't just completely dissolve away.
It doesn't matter.
I'm a home brewer, so.
Wouldn't the frozen one add more water to it?
It can add a little bit more, but in this case, it's not as much as ice, and it doesn't really matter, really. It's sangria.
It's designed to keep you vaguely hydrated. And
Yes, precisely.
No one knows. Party time.
Exactly.
for better or worse, if we're going to have any containers.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but we can probably go and pick them up like Goodwill.
Yes, definitely. Pick everything up at Goodwill. Almost everything. I would like.
We had a question about the growler bottle.
Yes. What is the question about the growler bottle?
Where did you find it?
Christmas tree shops.
Christmas tree.
The Christmas tree shops.
What is the Christmas tree shop?
It's in addition to
must be a
selling.
northerner.
It's a store that sells a bunch of stuff.
Oh,
It's like
the
Tuesday-
stuff
like
that goes
Tuesday morning.
that shows up about for the first month
Yeah.
before Christmas and then disappears.
Like
Well, no, this Christmas tree shop is a year-round permanent store. In addition, they sell a bunch of seasonal items. They got their start selling Christmassy tree stuff.
I know in South Carolina they're called Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, well, although we have those here
Fair
too.
enough.
Yeah.
We have both of them here,
It's
but
like Fat Man's Farm in Augusta is still there.
yeah. So Tuesday mornings, Christmas tree shops, they often have these kinds of glassware. This big fancy bottle I got there. This I got there. So
I think also Hobby Lobby, I think.
Yeah.
Hobby Lobby does, but
It's a little expensive.
Yeah.
they're more expensive. This at the Christmas tree shop. At the Christmas tree shop, this was only $2.99.
Oh, wow, nice, because, yeah, we can find swing top bottles, but they tend to be around
Yeah.
$4 or $5 range.
That was
per-
$2.99. That big one was $2.99, and this big pretty bottle was only $4.99.
Oh,
Oh,
sweet.
nice.
Where is the local Christmas tree shop?
I don't know because I live in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Down in Avondale Estates on College Avenue.
Emma?
Yeah. And there's also, you can find broom supplies. There's a broom supply place north of Alpharetta where you can get those for about $4, $3.50
Probably just more just where.
See, I don't need to do it now.
Oh, they're all
You're talking about this? This is
Mornings are all
awesome.
over.
There's a reason I don't roll over.
I could keep talking like this with y'all for all night, but in case any of you are interested, this is Basic Cocktails 101. Yay! Tonight, I would like to discuss the difference between a Manhattan and a martini. I would like to make a Manhattan. Sorry, I'm not making Manhattans. I don't like Manhattans. I'm making martinis.
Gin?
I have several kinds of gin. I'm going to discuss the different kinds of gin because that's a personal topic I'd rather love to talk about. I'm going to make somebody the cheap, easy, lazy man's version of a Tom Collins.
Yeah.
Using Old Tom gin, not regular gin. Because most Tom Collins you find, talking about my first classic cocktail, the Tom Collins. The Tom Collins was created back in the 1800s, so for steampunks everywhere, it's a wonderfully accurate drink. Not that we really give that much of a hoot about accuracy. The thing is, in modern day times, Old Tom gin is not as common. It is making a resurgence thanks to the widening trend of retroism in the community at large, which makes me very happy. So it's making harder ingredients easier to find. Old Tom gin is very different than your common gin. I have, for your edification, I have your Bombay Sapphire, which is top shelf gin, yummy, yummy stuff. And somebody here will be walking away with a Bombay martini tonight.
Someone other than me.
Yes. Somebody will also be lucky enough to get a Tom Collins. Will you be able to use your?
Yes.
Okay.
My favorite drink.
Okay, fine. I will reward one of my minions by making him the Tom Collins. I can be a nice and benevolent dictator. So now the thing about the Old Tom. Can I have a volunteer to come borrow their nose? Okay. I want you to smell. Reacquaint yourself with the smell of Bombay Sapphire. Tell everyone what you smell and how it smells.
Juniper berries, and that kind of good astringent white liquor smell.
Okay, now you're going to smell. I still need your nose because you have to give them a comparison smell. I'm going to let you smell the Old Tom.
Which is not clear at all.
No.
A little spicier.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite as astringent. Not quite as medicinal. But medicinal in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Now, Old Tom gin used to be more common than the more modern. Oh gosh, once upon a time I could have actually told you Norwegian gins and this, that, and the other thing. We can credit the Vikings for gin, by the way, in the long run. It's all thanks to the guys in the pointy hats who actually didn't wear horns on their hats. But
Yeah, I know.
yeah, well.
Spanging
But we like to pretend they did.
The issue with facts.
I'm a time traveler. I warp the time-space continuum. I don't care about facts.
How do I mean?
And then, of course, there's yet another kind of gin called the Genevieve gin. Actually, I'm not sure entirely how to pronounce Genevieve gin, but I call it Genevieve gin because it sounds fun. Now, Genevieve gin is actually, I believe, if my research was correct, I'm remembering things correctly, was actually technically came before the other kinds of gin. This was your first kind of gin. This particular Genevieve gin is special in that it was aged in oak casks. I am holding before you a bottle of gin that tastes like scotch.
Liar.
Wow.
Pass me a small glass. I will not be called a liar!
Challenge!
Of course, you know he was manipulating.
I'm a Scotch drinker, so I'm only envious because he thought of
Smell it, tell him what you smell, tell him what you taste.
Smells kind of scotchy. Damn you.
Just it's lacking that little slightly bit of
It doesn't have the
peatiness.
peat. It doesn't have it.
peatiness.
There's no peat in it whatsoever.
It's
But
not
yes,
just gonna be floral.
Could I smell? I admit that I despise gin.
you can either smell his sample or you can come smell the bottle.
You could have to. Try it.
That's yours.
Would you like that one sample?
Yeah, because
I'm going to be stingier with the amount of samples I hand out, but I will hand out samples. I'm just not going to give you full cups.
No, absolutely.
I'll take your, this gentleman wants some.
Yes. Because unfortunately I can't stand.
One moment, please. See, this is why my panel is so popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, it's not gin. I'm going to put this out here where y'all can see it a little better, because, you know, this is a special magical jar. This is the jar that allows me to provide samples for people. So, Feel free to avail yourself of it. The samples are there whether the jar is used or not. Because I like people and I like sharing booze. So those are the gins. Those are the gins, my favorite things. Which is why so many of I used to be strictly a rum girl, now I'm a gin girl. I have to admit, of late, I've become more and more of a gin girl. I imagine that the tides will turn and someday I'll try something different. But in the meantime, we're here to talk more about classic cocktails, not just the ingredients that go in them. So we'll talk about the martini first. Martini's been around for quite some time. It is considered one of the classic cocktails, classic modern cocktails. Even though it's been around some time, it was only created in the 1900s. It is not a steampunky drink, which is surprising considering it uses gin and dry vermouth, which have been around forever, but really didn't gain its huge popularity until more quote-unquote recent times. It is often been considered the drink of gentlemen and ladies. Your working class did not drink martinis. I like to think that the martini was created to make rich people feel better about drinking something that was considered to be a lower class drink. Gin. Gin was made in bathtubs. Gin was bathed in. And as one of my favorite stand-up comedians who talks about booze, Dylan Moran once said, gin, you should only drink gin if you're 45, a woman, and sitting on a stoop. Because it's not so much a liqueur as it is a mascara thinner. So, yes, that's what he had to say about gin, and I'm 42 and I love gin, so I'm pretty close to the mark. I have a stoop. I've been known to sit on the stoop and drink my gin and yell at passers-by, nobody loves my shoes.
There's a famous etching, Gin Lane, from the 18th century, which depicts the gin drinkers as all impoverished and dissolute and in very, very ill health.
Yes.
Rather hellish scene depicted in that etching.
Yes. So, other classic cocktails, again, the Manhattan. Manhattan is a bourbon, whiskey-based thing with cherries and stuff, and by all accounts, it should be tasty. It should be something I enjoy. I just don't dig the Manhattan. I'm more of an old-fashioned gal.
I like Manhattan.
Have you got the good one?
Try Peter Beerslayer's Manhattan. He makes a fine Manhattan. He's the lovely gentleman who put together the luxury track that we're all attending. He's the large, bald man with the mustache. He's wearing a kilt. He's rather...
Today's got a lovely blue velvet coat.
Yes, a lovely blue velvet smoking jacket.
Somewhere to make those, or?
Some have been known to call him bombastic. Some have been known to just call him loud. He is not easily missed.
Does he work at a bar somewhere?
No, I don't know where he is. He should be here, but he never sits in my panels.
You can't have gone far, unfortunately.
Yes, he's busy. He's busy making sure everyone's having a decadent time. So, I do not have the supplies to make neither the old-fashioned or the Manhattan. I apologize. I had a limited amount of car space.
So how do you get all of this across state lines without being stopped for bootlegging?
Don't tell people you're taking it.
I drove the speed limit and I did not get pulled over by a cop.
That's the way.
You didn't fly a flag on stuck to your trunk that says I have alcohol in my car.
Honestly, to be honest, the thought never even occurred to me. The only thing I don't do is sell my drinks because I am not a bartender and I am not licensed to sell alcohol. Just the jar. What I have been known, and most of my drinks, at some point in time, there will be a book of Calamity Dawn's original concoctions. There have been some technical difficulties in actually getting the book together, but eventually it will see print. In the meantime, I generally am fairly willing to share my own drink recipes, and of course classic recipes. Most of these are pretty much free reign. I have these lovely business cards, calling cards up at the front. If you wish to go like Calamity Dawn on Facebook, I often talk about ingredients. I not only talk about my original creations, I spend a good chunk of time talking about what new classic cocktails I've come into. Because I actually did things kind of backwards. I started doing creative mixology before I started learning about classic cocktails. It was when my chief minion went to bartending school that I looked at him and realized, I keep making these drinks. Maybe I should actually know something about the drinks that came before. And so then we went on an extensive study, and we have two types of nights. We have experiment night, where we create things like the Aether Gale or the Diabolical Mastermind, which I created for Miss Emma Pialot, my lovely assistant. She's the one who's keeping me hydrated tonight. Very important job.
Yeah, it was a rough night.
Yeah, we won't get into details about last night. Please, let's not. Last night was a bad night. There's a reason why the bartender shouldn't drink that much. The bartender likes to watch you get drunk. Where was I?
Oh God, I don't know where I was.
Oh yes, old fashions and things. Yes, so learning about the cocktails that came before. Yes.
Have you had the old fashioned with the raw egg white?
I have.
I like that.
The tip about tips and tricks classic cocktails. A good source for some of the really, I don't like calling them classic cocktails because most of the drinks in this book are questionable at best. Steam Drunks is a lovely book. It is hilarious. It is entertaining. It is fun to read. I've never seen somebody describe shaking a drink in oh so many different ways. My favorite one is shake it like a celibate priest.
Wow.
Exactly. Now, when making drinks that do feature egg whites, shake, shake, shake. That actually, thank you, that actually segues me into a very valuable point about creating classic cocktails. Essentially two types of drinks, clear drinks and creamy drinks. Now in the clear drinks you have the subcategory clear and dark, but clear drinks, creamy drinks. Clear drinks should generally be stirred or swirled. When it comes to rum and thing, you can shake the bejesus out of them. Never shake your gin, please. I don't care what the books tell you. Shaking gin will bruise the junipers and will alter the flavor of the drink. Now, I will admit, most people cannot tell the difference. I've only recently begun to tell the difference between a shaken martini and a stirred. It also clouds the martini. A shaken martini clouds, a stirred does not. James Bond is weird in the way that he likes it shaken, not stirred. That's on him. Some people like it. Most people cannot tell. I just cringe whenever somebody shakes a gin drink. But rum drinks can be shaken, vodka drinks can be shaken. I generally tend to stir them anyways, just out of habit. Cream drinks, however, need to be shaken. Need to be shaken till you shake your arms so hard they fall off, because more often than not, if you don't shake it enough, it curls. Thus leading to the drinks such as another classic shooter, the brain hemorrhage, also known as the Vulcan Mind Chrome or the cement mixer. Not a fun drink. Definitely not fun when you accidentally make one and you were expecting something yummy and creamy, and you have goop. One thing about the Victorians, they like to chew their drinks. In Steam Drunks, you'll see a lot of their recipes start off with take a dozen eggs, 12 pounds of sugar, and 18 gallons of rum, stick it in a vat, and put it in a corner for 6 months. Enjoy!
If you're chewing it, it's not drinking.
It's more like alcoholic cheese by that point. So, does anybody out there have a favorite classic cocktail? I know you are a Manhattan man.
White lady.
White Lady. Wait, let's see if I have that one on here. I am not familiar with that one. See, now I'm learning. The student becomes the teacher.
Cosmopolitan.
Sazerac. Did you know the Sazerac is the oldest cocktail known? Written cocktail? It's also really tasty.
Milk punch.
Milk punch, yes, I've tried milk punch.
Yeah.
Let me just...
First example I found of that was actually something from George Washington. Planter's punch.
I'm gonna say
Planter's punch.
Planter's punch.
Yes,
That's a good one.
another good one is the fish house punch.
grog and
I have
milk.
that.
Which does not have seafood in it.
Rob Roy.
Rob Roy is a good classic one. One of my old favorites is the Rusty Nail. I love Little Scotch and Little Drambuie. It's one of the, there's not that many drinks that actually use Scotch in it, mainly because who wants to take a nice Scotch and add stuff to it?
Yeah, 2 ounces of
Okay,
Scotch.
so the White Lady is gin, triple sec, and lemon juice. That's
Normally,
this
the
one.
classic had egg whites in it, but I leave those out.
Well, this one is a more modern edition. Nice resource for you all. This is a mixology app called Mixology. Well, what I like about Mixology, I do have Web Tinder. What I like about Mixology is I can put it on random, and I shake my phone, and it gives me a new recipe. That's amazing.
It is kind
And it
of
makes this really neat little.
What happens when you shake it like a velvet freeze? Shake it like a velvet freeze.
And in this case, it tells us to make a midnight martini, which is 1 ounce dry vermouth, 1 ounce dry vermouth. Are they trying to kill me? And 1 ounce secret dry vermouth. In my opinion, Calamity Dawn's tips: dry vermouth should be used quite sparingly. When I see a recipe that says use 1 ounce of dry vermouth, I tend to knock it down. But that is because personally, I'm not actually that wild about the dry vermouth, even though I do like the martini.
Isn't dry vermouth an oxymoron?
No, because there's sweet vermouth. It's dry versus sweet, and there's a sweet
There's
vermouth.
different
Which is,
qualities too.
they have different qualities. One is used more with white grapes, one is used more with a red base. And there's actually even more variants than that if you want to get into it, different varietal blends and things and so on, and dry ports versus, you know, as a port vermouth versus other such things. I find it's very handy. Going back to tips and tricks on things to have on your wet bar, dry vermouth. Sweet vermouth is more optional. I don't use very many drinks that have sweet vermouth in it.
vermouth storage, what do you recommend?
I usually keep mine in the fridge.
Okay.
I usually keep
It
mine.
does have a shelf life.
It does have a shelf life.
That
That's why I
probably
usually
should
keep
be
mine in the
right.
fridge. This is a brand new bottle actually that I bought this weekend because A, I forgot it, and B, I realized I needed a new one because mine was too old.
So what is too old? What's the expiration date?
I usually keep mine in the fridge for no more than 6 months, and I think that's pushing it, according to my bartender friend. Here's a neat trick. If you have a drink and you don't feel like buying sweet vermouth, and a drink calls for sweet vermouth, do something fun. Substitute Manischewitz or Milligan David.
Really?
It works. We made a sweet martini. We were actually experimenting. I was given the challenge to create a drink using Manischewitz as an ingredient. Being being an ex-Jew, I thought that would be a wonderful thing to try to do. So I went out and bought myself a bottle of Manischewitz, and first thing we thought of was, well, let's just substitute it out for the sweet vermouth. So we made a sweet martini using Manischewitz, and it's surprisingly tasty. Surprisingly so.
Jewish Manhattan.
Jewish Manhattan. There we go, the Jewish Manhattan. So, let's see, I think it's time for me to make a drink for somebody. What do you think? Should I make a drink? That's what you all really came for, right?
Yeah.
So, my 1970 vintage shaker I got at the thrift store. Another thrift store find, my traveling bar set.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's
I bought this.
amazing.
When I bought this, it was missing one of the cups and one of the jiggers. I found it at a St. Francis thrift store in Ohio for $15.
Wow.
Missing just the 2 cups. My chief minion found a slightly older, slightly more careworn version. This is about circa 1950s. He found a 1930s era travel mate. His was the case and 1 cup and 1 jigger.
Ironic.
He gave it to me and said, "Here's a present for you." And I said, "Great, now I can complete mine." So I have now an empty case and then this one. What I really like about this is being all vintagey and everything. It's kind of neat. This is a genuine Bakelite handle.
Wow.
That's how we knew how old it was, because it has actually the actual Bakelite candle and not a plastic handle. Some of you may be too young to know what Bakelite is. I can't describe it. Actually, looking at the crowd, most of you probably do know what Bakelite is.
Wonder polymer of the Depression. You're
Yes.
right.
So, a little bit of ice, which, because it's been sitting for a bit, I'm going to. One thing I like about this shaker, this is one of the few shakers I have where I can actually use the strainer on it without actually using an independent strainer, because it makes it a great travel shaker, because it has a lid that screws on, and it's very firmly attached. So, gin. Now, I was gonna make a dry martini. See, I told you it was a new bottle. Now, the way I do my gin, I don't do ounce, I don't do quarter ounce, I do a couple splashes of dry gin, because I really like my martinis dry.
I showed the bottles of the martini and walk away.
Yes, that is another good way of making it.
I did have a friend who said that the real problem with martinis is they don't put enough vermouth in it.
Well,
Having tried them both ways, I
yeah,
tend to
no,
put more.
yes, I do apologize for the lack of cocktail olives, onions, and or twists. I had enough trouble getting fruit for the sangria.
Have gummy bears.
Oh, we could, a dry martini with a gummy bear? It'd be more of a sweet martini kind of a thing.
Gummy cherries.
Ah, well.
Now we're
give this
talking
another-
science again.
There's
I love
a
the
Food
gummy
Network
bears.
personality who puts his dry vermouth in a sprayer in mists.
Yes, that is actually a fairly classic way to do it.
I've seen it done
2
many times where
ounces.
someone puts the vermouth in the glass, rolls it around, and pours the vermouth out.
Yes,
Yes.
that is how that's what I do for my Sazeracs with the absinthe. I just roll the Sazerac in there a little bit, a couple drops. We'll leave that out. Now, I'm just gonna do the swirling method, which is fun. It's just kind of fun to do. Centrifugal force. Let's see. Science!
Science is indicator.
Science is in the mind of the beholder. Just ask the creationists. So here's my proposition. I think we should make a steampunk trip out to Kentucky. We should get all the steampunks,
the
diesel punks,
museum.
and go to the Creationist Museum. We should put on all of our best time traveling duds and go stand by the dinosaurs in the Creationist Museum. I wonder if they'd actually let us in. Now, here comes a really tricky part. Who's gonna drink this?
I'll drink it.
Oh my God. I see, you've got a sample of something already. The 2 gentlemen back there, and Minion, you're gonna get something. I'll make you one later. Now, between the two of you, well, I'll just make a second one.
Ooh, I like that glass.
Now, I admit, these martini glasses aren't the ideal size. We had a discussion in the last panel a little bit about modern martini glasses versus classic martini glasses. The modern martini glasses, of which there's a sample of one up ahead. Would you like to show it off, Shauna? That's your glass. This is Esdee Ar for the gentleman in the brown.
This would be a modern martini glass, since a lot of modern martinis, like your apple teeny and the other fruitinis, contain a lot of mixers in addition to whatever alcohol. They are larger in volume, usually about between 4 to 6 ounces, as opposed to a traditional martini glass, which is about 2 ounces. Because you really don't want to be drinking 4 to 6 ounces of straight alcohol.
Sure I do.
Not if you want to remember it.
Only if you're drinking Calamity Special. Now, making another one, because I'm nice like that. Actually, while I'm working on this other one, why don't you tell them about the different glasses after I give my caveat. Would you lift up the rocks glass first?
Yes, certainly.
Now, I will repeat this bit of statement in every single panel I ever do. That is a rocks glass, also known as an old-fashioned glass, that kind of thing. You can serve any drink in that glass, be it a martini, daiquiri. The only thing I don't recommend serving in is a shooter because it gets kind of messy because it tends to pour out the side of your mouth when you try to shoot it too fast. But Rob Roy's, any drink that you can come up with can be served. In your home wet bar, you need not have any more than one of those, or possibly a couple of taller glasses for things like the Tom Collins or the fizzes. Other than that, you're good set. All these other glasses are just frosting on the cake.
Yeah, one of the things that signifies a glass of this nature is it's got a firm, thick bottom, and that makes it really good for when you need to muddle an ingredient into the bottom. You get a muddling tool and you just mash it down to the bottom. The thicker it is, the less likely it is to fracture or break on you.
Yes, I know.
And this tends to have about the perfect, ounce size.
Just think about how beautiful a couple fingers of scotch would look in that glass.
That's why they call it fingers. Measure by finger volume. If you have bigger fingers, you get bigger drinks.
That is why I let my husband point fingers. What other glasses do we have?
Well, since you talked about shooters, I will show off the difference between a shot glass and a shooter. Usually shooters are taller. You use shooters for if you are mixing additional ingredients other than liquor. Also, if you're doing a layered shot, because it shows up a lot better.
You don't need that.
Foul!
You only need that if you're putting it down.
But thank you. I will bend down. Would you like the bottom of your glass?
Not gonna be putting it down anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ethel.
Just saying.
Well, that shows that how valuable my assistant is. She catches things that I miss.
But you can fit about 2 ounces worth of alcohol into a shooter glass as opposed to an ounce, ounce and a half in a shot glass. Shot glasses are called shot glasses because you put your amount of alcohol in there and you shoot it back. You're not going to sit there and sip on a shot glass unless you're a pansy and you can take your alcohol.
Is it pansy?
Yes, a pansy.
Awesome.
I'm a hard alcohol girl. I drink Jack and Coke doubles and I tend to date guys who drink Sex on the Beach. And I always make them wait for me.
I'd like to share a quick, cute little anecdote about shooters. From a story from the Charlie Tonic Hour, a podcast that's fairly raising in popularity. One of the members of the show talked about how in his college days he decided he'd heard of this drink called the Prairie Fire. I'm going to try the Prairie Fire. It sounds like a manly drink. It's a manly drink. It's tequila and hot sauce. Yes, it's a manly drink. So he goes up to the bartender. He says, "Bartender, I'd like a Prairie Fire." And the bartender's like, "What?" And he said, "Well, it's tequila and Tabasco." "Oh, I can do that. What are the proportions?" The young man didn't really know, but not wanting to sound ignorant after asking for this drink, said, "It's 50-50. And the bartender looked at him and said, "Really?" And of course, the young man at this point in time realized that he couldn't back out. And he was like, "Yes, make 5 of them." Figured if he was going down, he was going to take all of his buddies with him. So takes it back to the table, and they shoot back their 50-50 shot tequila and Tabasco. And then, of course, they couldn't just let it sit at that. No. Bring us another round. I won't stop drinking these till you stop drinking these. Apparently the bartender at one point had to send his assistant out to the grocery store to buy more bottles of Tabasco. That's my cute little anecdote. Here endeth the story.
At least that sounds better than a prairie oyster.
Somebody
For
made
those
me
who don't know what
start
prairie
with that
oyster is,
name.
an egg yolk with tequila and the dash of hot sauce.
Prairie oysters are old oysters.
Yeah.
Those are Rocky Mountain oysters also.
That's somebody
My
made
favorite
me
glass.
Yeah, this is the one that really made me jump forward and say, hey, if you need glasses, this is an aperitif glass, also known as a cordial, or a fancy shot glass.
It's so pretty. Difference is you, aperitifs you might shoot, cordials you generally don't shoot.
They're for sipping. You don't drink a whole lot of a cordial because it tends to be very thick, concentrated, a lot of sugar or whatever.
Tastes good.
Jägermeister.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of cordials taste very good drizzled over.
Chocolate?
Ice cream.
Yes.
Ice cream.
Speaking of cordials, I do actually have some coffee cordial that we made it. One of my mixology classes. I occasionally have mixology classes in my home in Ohio, and one of my friends is a very good cordial maker. And as part of the class that day, we made it in the house in class that day, and coffee cordial only took about an hour to make. And it's been sitting and aging for the last since October.
It's good.
And it's very good now.
Very
Basically
good.
homemade Kahlua, but better. There will be samples of this later.
Yeah. We've tried making that.
Before I get back to
Yes, sorry.
following up on the glass, I'll point out, this is an example of how you do not need to have a particular glass for whatever you're drinking. Technically, this glass does not go with a sangria, but I was like, it's an extra glass. I like a lot of alcohol. I don't want to drink out of the little plastic cups. So.
And they're her glasses, so, yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Usually a glass with a stem is because you want to avoid warming whatever is in the glass. Therefore, cordials, you don't want to warm it too much. If you see a glass with a stem, such as this and a lot of the other glasses, it's because you don't want to warm whatever's in it. You also don't want to have to add a lot of ice to keep it cool because that just waters down your drink.
Do not hold your white wine glasses by the bowl. Hold it by the stem.
This is an exception.
Red glasses by the bowl.
This is an exception to the
Yes,
stems.
yes.
That is because you
That's
like
meant
to
to be
hold it
held
like
like that.
this. This is a brandy snifter.
Hey, brandy snifter.
It has a narrow mouth. That way it concentrates all the fumes up into one area for your nose. When you're drinking, your nose goes straight in there. It
You should
has
be careful what other alcohols you put in there. I put some of my concoctions in there and been unable to sip on them.
You get your nose in there.
My darling husband who's not here and can't penalize me for saying the name of his drink, the Belly of the Beast. House rule in our house, if you say the name of the drink, the Belly of the Beast, you have to take a shot of the Belly of the Beast. Amongst its many ingredients are cinnamon, homemade home infusion of cinnamon fire vodka, made with atomic fireballs that we
nice.
at home.
Yes.
Yes. Basically, take a bunch of atomic. Well, I'll explain next class if you want to learn how to make the atomic fireball vodka. It's that and our home infusion of wasabi vodka and a few other
good
tasty
Lord.
ingredients.
I have a couple
And
of
he
vodkas.
serves it in these glasses. The very first time he
Because the
served it to
tears
me,
are the key ingredient.
it took, yes, the tears of horror and dismay. Yeah, the first time he served me the Belly of the Beast, it took me 5 tries before I could even sip it. Surprisingly though, despite its extreme, it's a very tasty drink. So I generally don't mind too much saying Belly of the Beast around the house. And if any of you get online and find my husband and tell him I said it 3 times, I will
I counted 6.
have a few drinks.
Anyhow, the other reason it's got this wide bowl in the bottom is to allow it to gain access to air, and it oxidizes and it creates more aroma. A lot of the glasses you see with a wider bottom is because there are aromatics in whatever drinks you are supposed, quote unquote, to serve in them. The more access to air, the more your nose can get a good whiff of it, and it's tastier that way. A lot of the things we consume.
Can I jump ahead a couple of
Yeah, go for it.
I have a question, because I notice you have the float, the Chambord float, which is champagne float, and you have more of a flute. Is there a difference between drinking your champagne out of a float or a flute?
A float or a flute? And actually, we talked a little bit about this while you were out.
Ah, wonderful. Well, I missed that, so edify me.
To be honest, I am not entirely sure. The Chambord.
If anybody can find that out for me.
Yes. The large white one came as part of a set.
Well, it's something to do with the differences about how they made the carbonation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you. the
Yes,
difference.
please, tell us.
The wider glasses give you more points in which bubbles can form.
Mhm.
So if it is in a flute, the carbonation, which is a critical part, of course, of champagne, will last longer.
Well, that is correct.
However, it depends on what you're after. If you think you're going to be drinking faster, you go with the wider, so you get more of the aromatics. It depends on the champagne.
So I-
Chance to go flat.
I have noticed that the majority of the champagne floats I've seen are bridal glasses.
Mhm.
And I rarely ever see anybody drinking out of floats outside of bridal glasses or in like bad 1920s movies.
Yeah, and this one came as part of a set. You get Chambord, you put a little in the glass, you add champagne, it becomes a drink that you then consume quickly as opposed to a champagne toasting glass.
Cure Royale.
Yeah, because champagne that is lost its fizz.
It's not.
That's when you pour it into the sangria bowl.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Well, no, I was gonna ask you, isn't it something to do with how they made champagne too? That you needed the wider bowl to get the bubbles because of the difference in how we make it now from then?
It's possible
That could
because
be a good reason for the evolution of the. We should look up the evolution of serving champagne.
Well done.
yeah.
I will research that, as I'm sure other people are probably going, yeah, I should look at that. So what other glasses do we have?
These two are, I actually have a wide variety of logos on my glasses. These are two variations on beer glasses. This one is ridged along the inside, again, for carbonation reasons, gives more points of contact where you get more bubbles. This one is also known as a mixing glass, because a lot of the mixers, I don't know if yours will do this trick, but you take the top of the mixer, you pour whatever you want to mix in it, you put the top of the mixer straight on top, you can mix it straight in the glass, pour the thing off.
I'm a bad mixologist. I don't actually have a mixing glass set yet.
But a lot of these
I've been waiting for
are wider at the top.
someone to give it to me. Not you.
I was like, I like this glass.
No. My minion has been promised me. I believe they call it the Boston Shaker.
Yes.
My minion has been, my chief minion has been promising to give me one for ages now.
And of course, the difference between this and this is also you're warming whatever you're drinking in this one, while you can sit back and enjoy.
Lager port.
Yeah.
Or port.
And what is your opinion on frosting your glasses in the freezer?
It makes it.
I don't generally think that far ahead.
Depends on the.
Yeah, I usually don't think that far ahead either.
Yeah.
For
If
a
it's-
lager that is fermented at below,
Yeah, I don't drink beer either, so.
Yeah.
you would want to have a frosted glass,
Yeah.
but for an ale that's
Is there anything you
fermented
don't
at
do?
Beers
room
have
temperature.
optimal
beer,
serving
yeah.
temperatures.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, you're a brewer, so you do that.
I make beer for
So you know,
fun. Yeah. The difference there would be there are certain beers like IPAs, the lighter beers, lagers, that you want to serve cold. They are not pleasant warm.
Yeah, I
They
can
tend to
attest
be
that.
very sharp, bitter, especially like double hopped beers, things like that. Frosting the glass makes a significant difference on the flavor.
Whereas things like ales, porters, stouts, you lose a lot of your flavor profile when you serve them too cold.
Like
So you want to have them, like cellar temp.
yeah, like around 60 degrees to 70 degrees. And so if you're going with, say, like an imperial stout, if you serve that thing at around 30 to 40 degrees, you will be losing a substantial portion of the flavor and the aromatics.
Let's move on to the next glass. I know what the next glass is, since we've already talked
Yeah,
about
I'm
it.
going to skip the Chambord champagne flip.
It's a water glass.
It is not a water glass.
It's mostly water glass.
You are
Partly
referring to
water
my,
glass, yes.
my absinthe glass. An absinthe glass.
Absence make the hearts go fonder.
An absinthe glass has a well in the bottom, usually about this big. That is where
This is not the best absinthe.
No.
I apologize wholeheartedly.
you pour that amount of absinthe fits right in here.
I should have brought my bottle.
Then the rest of it will traditionally be taken up by water. When you luge a absinthe, you drip water into it, or you pour it slowly, and it will create a cloudy absinthe.
Precipitate.
Yeah, precipitate. Some people will use sugar, in which case you'll have an absinthe spoon, which is wide enough to fit across the top of the
That's
glass,
what I forgot to get last time.
and slot it. You lay a sugar cube on top, whether you dip it in the absinthe earth and light it, or you just lay it on top, drip the water through the sugar cube. It creates this entire ritual. A lot of absinthe drinking is about the ritual as opposed to the taste of the absinthe, because personally it tastes disgusting. But I don't like licorice either, or
It's an acquired taste.
it's very much an acquired taste.
I wish I could have bought, I wanted to bring something to add to the absinthe thing. I have a friend who has these set of absinthe glasses. They're actually a little short, a little wider, but her absinthe glass set comes with the chambered glass, but comes with this dish that you set on top of it that has slots in it. And you put that on there and you just pour it in there. No spoon, it's just. And I know what the next glass is.
Yes, well, I was actually going to skip the next glass.
Everybody knows what a margarita glass is,
yes.
right?
And really, the only reason a margarita glass looks like this is because someone invented it and said, this is margarita glass. We like margaritas in this glass.
Yes.
It has a stem, so, you know, whether it's, you know, on the rocks or whether it's frozen, you're not warming it with your hands.
And this way all the tequila settles down on the bottom.
And then it has a nice wide lip because with margaritas, you like to salt the rims. And the more salt you have, the more you can turn the glass and
The
liquid
more
salt.
you drink.
Same thing for martini, for a lot of martini, wider martini glasses. So what next? What's that pretty blue glass?
The pretty blue glass, the only reason it's blue is because it happened to be the glass I grabbed as I was packing frantically to get to the convention. It otherwise has no effect on what you will be drinking. It is a red wine glass. Has a larger bowl because red wines you generally want to have the aromatics going on. A smaller nose, again, because you want to get your nose up in there while you're drinking it, and a stem. You're seeing a pattern here. Shapes and everything applies to whatever it is you're drinking. Red wines, again, you want to smell it more. White wines, which can be served in a champagne glass, yeah, you can serve it in a red wine glass. You're not going to be smelling it as much.
Now we talked about the flute.
We talked about the flute.
We talked about martini glasses.
We talked about the martini
And
glass.
what is that strange looking contraption on the
Strange
end,
looking
Esdee Ar?
contraption on the end, which I was going to skip to margarita glass to talk about at the same time. This is a hurricane glass. Again, it is one of those things that is invented strictly for the drink that goes into it. It is called a hurricane glass because it looks like a hurricane lamp.
That makes sense.
It does now, yes.
And you know, it is huge because we like our drinks big. And it generally fits, I forgot my notes, I want to say 12 to 14 ounces.
If you go to Lafitte's, do you have two of those? You're going to stumble back to your hotel.
Yes, yes. It is definitely a college drink. Because, you know, when you were a college kid, what you want to do is get wasted as quickly as
You have a
possible.
question, Mr. Minion?
I do. What about that glass at the end there with all the money in it?
Oh, that glass? Oh, this is the most valuable glass that any bartender or mixologist should very well have.
Plastic.
Oh.
This is actually plastic, but this is a receptacle commonly known as the tip jar.
So what do we drink out of?
Well, you see, actually, it is thanks to the tip jar that most bartenders can buy milk to take home to their families because they are usually paid only about $3.25. They're paid less than minimum wage. The majority of a bartender's funds come from the loving and gracious thanks of their well-paying and well-meaning customers. So, while you might spend $10 on a cocktail, he's only going to see a small fraction of that. For the amateur mixologist, this jar enables the amateur mixologist to provide samples at conventions and parties and the like.
Because otherwise we'd just be sitting here talking about it. No one would
Yes.
because you wouldn't get to try anything.
Yes, because I said my mind. So that is what that last jar is. Thank you, Mr. Minion. So I think we should move on to making another cocktail or two. Because that's really what you all are here for. It's not the talkity, is it? It's not what I think. It's the chance to drink my booze, right?
I can drink anywhere. I'm here for the intellectual stimulation.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for the knowledge. So, I'm going to make a Tom Collins using Old Tom Gin. Is there anybody else out there other than my 1 minute who I promised I would make one for?
No, it's okay. Give it.
Okay. Is there anybody here who would like to try a Tom Collins, actually made with Tom Collins gin? Alrighty then, I've got 3 hands.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I see 3 hands. I'm going to make 3 of them. We need 3 glasses.
If you promise to take good care of my glasses, you may use them.
All right. Well, we will use this one. This one.
And some of them are clear.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, we'll go with the flute.
Fancy.
Fancy dancy. All right, now, this is what I like to call the cheater's Tom Collins. This is it. Thank you. This is the Tom Collins for people who don't have time to squeeze a bajillion limes and who have run out of club soda. Or rather, whose club soda was all flat and didn't have a chance to get out to the store to buy club soda because she was at the emergency room all morning. That would be me. I was at the ER. I learned why bartenders serve and not drink, among other things. It was a large congruence of things that led me down a very dark, nasty, evil path.
It doesn't have anything to do with cigars and much alcohol last night, does it?
No.
It has 90% to do with that. Well, 10% was a pre-existing medical condition I didn't know was
Well,
there.
then I apologize.
Apology accepted. So the cheaters Tom Collins, or the lazy Collins. We'll rename it the lazy Collins.
It's 8:10 by the way.
Thank you. After these drinks, we will take a break to set up for creative mixology, a peek into my process. So, lazy Collins, you take your Tom Collins gin, old Tom gin. Now, here's an interesting little fun thing about the old Tom gin. It used to be when, I keep sticking to myself. They would take the old Tom gin and they would actually have a sign with like a spout. And you would come up, you would put some money in the slot next to the sign, and some gin would pour out of the slot into your thing, because they weren't allowed to sell liquor after certain hours and such. Or so the legend says.
So having a machine do it is entirely different.
Well, exactly. There was no human interaction.
Right. We're not selling it. It's accidentally happening mechanically.
This is I don't often serve drinks with ice. This is a drink with ice. I also don't usually serve drinks that, Anyways, because the Tom Collins is very similar to a gimlet in that it has gin and lime juice, and except unlike a gimlet, it has soda, usually club soda. It also usually has sugar added. A great way to get around that is you use Sprite or Sierra Mist. I find Sierra Mist works better than Sprite and works better than 7-Up. So what you start with.
I smell gin.
Where's your smell gin? It's gin ballistic. One of these is going to be very weird because it's a champagne float. One of these, I will say one of these will be a little bit lighter in gin than the other, only because it's in a smaller glass. One of them will be considered the ladylike Tom Collins, or lazy Collins.
What is that supposed to mean?
So, to make the lazy Collins, you pour the Tom Collins gin into a glass, and then you simply top with Sprite or Sierra Mist. It will be bubbly, it will be tasty, it will be aromatic.
Be fast.
And the rest of this is for me, minus the gin. Okay, my Collins wanting individuals. Take your pick. All right. You'll take the little lady like you. And there you go. Make sure you tell people what you think of the Tom Collins. Made with Tom Collins in, because most places in this day and age, when you order a Tom Collins, you're going to get well gin, or if you ask for fancier gin, you're going to get modern gin, as I like to call it, but not Tom gin, old Tom.
I think it's more floral.
It is. It has a different kind of botanicals in it. I actually find the Tom Collins gin to be very reminiscent, old Tom gin to be very reminiscent of Drambuie.